Welcome to a rainy day in the shop. It's a good day to finish up the Saab. So I'm going to put you on the camera right away on the tripod, and we're going to start full on assembly mode. And then we'll do a rundown and I'll show you everything about this model. Would you look at that? Oh, it's a thing of beauty. Absolutely love it. All right, so let's move on to everything that I've painted, because I painted everything, literally everything. So um, again, did the primer first on the canopy after removing all of the liquid masking film. And I did notice after that there was a little bit of bleed through on the primer. That's me. I get in a hurry at the end of my projects. And this one, honestly, I'm not too terribly bummed about it because this was a study. I'll get more into that in a minute. So tip to tail, what have we done? This is a Dubro spinner that I have done infill with little pieces of foam and fiberglass, and it no more has slots for prop blades. Okay, so 3D printed radial is still the same. Prop blades, I went ahead and sanded these so that they looked a little more dulled. It was just a look that I'm going for, and I'm pretty happy with that. The tips I did sand the original paint off of because it was flaking. So I wanted to use a high quality primer before I laid down some yellow. So I've got proper yellow tips. Yeah, and then painted everything. First I painted the blue, the flaps and the wheel covers or gear covers. Those were painted separately off of the wings, and the wings were then painted on the bottom side. And then we painted the bottom side of the fuselage. That was left to dry. Did all that in one afternoon. Then we masked off, okay? The next day I was able to mask off and shoot all the green paint in the afternoon there. So that is why we have such a timely paint job. All right, so then after that, what do? First and foremost, you let it cure out for at least a day. And then after that, I literally took a cotton rag and started wiping everything down, because you have essentially an overspray and it's going to feel kind of rough. And so you're sanding it, right? You're sanding it, but you're really just taking off that overspray coat. And also you're bringing out some of the texture. So like, for example, these ribs, even though this is fabric cover, that looked pretty smooth. And so bringing out some of these highlights, as well as some of the highlights in the panel lines, you're rubbing off and chipping off a little bit of the paint to take care of that. So that helps the panel lines pop. And all of that is before we apply the decals. Okay, so then we apply the decals, all the roundels. These are from Callie Graphics. Thank you, Callie. You're amazing. This is a custom design roundel that I have done, and she did a custom order for me a while back. I painted the J's. I used my little silhouette vinyl cutter to create masks for the J's, painted the J's. Yeah, and that was all before the clear coat. All that had to be done before clear coat, and we're shooting a clear coat of just a matte. I thought about using a semi-gloss clear, but honestly, it was too glossy. I did a test patch on the spinner, and it was too glossy still. So I went with the true matte, and honestly, it's still pretty glossy, but based off of the reference pictures that I'm using, this makes the most sense to me. All right, so coming over on this side so you guys get a different view. So after all of the clear went on, again, let that cure, and then started the assembly. And as you saw, all the assembly is pretty much just taking all the main component parts that have been painted separately and dumping them back onto the airplane. Now, there are a couple of things that I need to point out that make me a bonehead. I say bonehead not to be, self-inflicting, self-insulting, but end of a project, I'm getting in a hurry. Take a lesson from me. Do not do as I do, do as I say. Slow down. Okay, so two things I need to address. When I was hanging the fuselage to spray for clear coat, the prop nut on the front, when you saw me assemble, it's got a nice slot through it. So I ran a wire through that and hung it from an O-ring. I mean, a ring that's hanging from the ceiling in the paint booth. Okay, so then I was turning it, right? And yeah. Slipped off of that, hit the floor. So let me show you the first piece of damage I already have. You guessed it. Right? Typical. So yeah, that's a bit of a bummer, bit of a downer, dummy. It gets worse. All right, so and then in course of making this video, I'm cleaning up the shop. Bunch of tools need to be put away, clutter everywhere. Need to be able to walk around a little bit, so I'm moving stuff around. Had a wing off the plane, leaned up against my workbench. Was moving the workbench to get something out from underneath of it. It looks okay. But yeah, now it doesn't look okay. Stupid wing got in the way. So it was leaned up against the table and it got pinched up under this lip. Dummy. Absolute dummy. Anyway, the airplane is more or less done. There are a couple of minor details that I'd like to add here and there. An antenna mast. I want to add an antenna mast, probably also a pitot tube of some kind or another. And then there's a high gain antenna on the bottom, like a radar antenna. I forget what it's called. It's the ring one. Anyway, it's on the bottom of the fuselage. It's aft of the bomb bay. So I want to add one of those too. Short of that, there's not a lot else. There really wasn't a whole lot of numbers or things on there. There are some, but I don't know what they say because I don't have any good photographs of it. I could probably dig a little bit deeper, but again, not what I'm going after with this model. So let's talk about that, shall we? The reason that I really wanted to build this model was two things. Number one, I really love dive bombers, and I really don't think they're modeled enough. I mean, if you're going to find one, it's either going to be some sort of Japanese dive bomber, but they were kind of more multi-purpose aircraft too. And then the other one is a Dauntless. Now, I have nothing against the Dauntless. I think it's a fine model. It's a fine subject too. Served our country very well. Not a whole lot of interesting history, at least not interesting to me. It's fine. Not a big deal. But the designer, okay, let's go back to the designer. So Jerry Bates is the designer of the plans for this model. And Jerry has been designing models for a long, long time. And before I build something else, wink, wink, yeah, I wanted to build something of Jerry's design so that I could familiarize myself with his plans, with his build sequence, be able to understand how to read his build. So if I could read his build, then I can make my life a little bit easier on the next build that I want to do that is his plans. Okay, so here it goes. I'm going to build another Helldiver. Okay, guys, it's a Jerry Bates Helldiver. I'm not going to build it terribly soon. I have everything that I need to build it except for batteries. I've been sitting on this for a while. Okay, so I'm turning 43 in May. And stupid Carl, stupid Patrick, two great buddies of mine, they bought me for my 40th birthday, you know, in the pandemic, they bought me the plans, laser cut kit, and you know, it was just amazing. Absolutely amazing. It's my unicorn. Okay, the Helldiver is my favorite model, but getting back to this subject, before I endeavor to build that, because I have more dollars than cents into that model at this point. I have, you know, power system, retracts, wheels. I literally waited 14 months to get wheels and tires from Robart for this model. It's a weird size, 5¼ inch diameter. So yeah, I've put a lot into that model already, and before I go into that, I needed to do this. That being said, what this has turned into has been a very, very fun project. I am super stoked about this. I think it's got a good amount of average detail to pass as a nice model, but not so nice that I'm going to be scared to fly it. It's nice and light. It has really neat features. Man, these landing gear, I swear, this is like the neatest thing ever. And huge thanks to Tom. Again, everybody thank Tom for those custom Oleo landing gear. Like, I mean, amazing, amazing work there. And Ben Harbor, good heavens, hero of the show too, with his 3D print, and then figuring out the kinematics for the wheel and gear cover stuff. I mean, 3D print. It just absolutely 3D print for the exhaust pipes. 3D print for the canopy mold for that front part of the canopy. Dude was amazing on the CAD for me. So huge shout out to Ben as well. And absolutely last but not least, I've got to give a huge shout out to Dubro. Dubro was the main sponsor for this build. They sponsored all of the hardware for this model. So anything from like clevises to hinges, control horns. I mean, all these little things, they add up. And with 4 flaps and ailerons and elevator, rudder, I mean, all of this stuff, it adds up. And so you think, oh, I'll just buy some hardware. Hardware is not a trivial aspect of any model. So huge shout out to them. Got their inflatable tires that look very scale, very much the part on this model. So guys, go give Dubro some love. Go to their website. They're having March Madness now. So they're having some sale on some things. Use my discount code Josh10 for 10% off there. But you know, guys, it's getting to be flying season. I've got another model that I've got to wrap up, the B-25. So I've got to get on that. I've got two more models to finish for the Dubro giveaway. So head on over to there. Make sure you're participating so you get entered to win that. There's so much more to do. I got to shut up and get back to work. And I'm going to keep working on those other flying works of art.